Good evening. I'm here tonight with Michael Hottinger from Garabandal in Spain, northern Spain. Great to see you, Michael.
Great to see you too, Doctor.
We've got people with us already, a couple dozen people from all over the world, from South Bend, Indiana, from the coast of Maine, and from Sao Paulo, Brazil, etc. So, Michael, and we're here as you have been for many, many years now, talking about the apparitions at Garabandal. We want to know what they contained, what they mean to us, and what's happening right there with you in these days, this summer of 2024. How was today for you?
Oh, we were blessed with work today, Doctor. We had, let's see, we had 40 pilgrims from the United States at 10 o'clock in the morning who were here to watch the 23-minute documentary that we show. And then after, they got the abridged version of the PowerPoint presentation that I show that makes the direct connection between Fatima and Garabandal. Before that, we had a group of Spanish-speaking Americans, 42, that came the afternoon before. So we have, and then tomorrow we have two groups totaling about 60. So it's just been we've been really inundated with pilgrims the last couple of days. It's been really we've been blessed with work, and it's you can just see Our Lady uh, pulling people to this place in order to show them the true messages of Our Lady of Garabandal. And that's what we do here in the Pilgrim Center. We teach about the true messages of Our Lady of Garabandal.
All right. So that's very nice. Sounds peaceful. What do you emphasize when you first introduce people to the message? And so let's make that the beginning of our program.
Well, what we do is the first we like to show this introductory video, and it outlines and details the a brief history of the events that happened from the very beginning in the Calleja when the girls were in this stony cow path, and they were playing in this stony cow path that leads up to the pines. And what were they doing there? They were little girls, and unsupervised, without any parental guidance, they were getting into mischief, and they were picking apples off this apple tree.
Hmm.
And to tell you the story, and now the apple tree wasn't theirs; it was owned by the teacher. And what they were doing was, now mind you, this was in June, so these weren't, this beautiful red, delicious, hanging off the tree fruit. No,
Hmm.
these were green, little, kind of like walnut-sized things, unripe, immature fruit hanging from the tree. And I have this from the people who lived here. What they were doing was they were picking these apples and then would hide on the other side of the wall. And as people would kind of pass by, they would try and plunk them on the top of the head and giggle. I mean,
Okay.
they were mischievous little children. And what happened was, while they were doing this, they heard this clap of thunder, and one of the girls looked up first, and that was Conchita. She looked up and she saw this uh, amazing sight, and it was Saint Michael the Archangel. And when the other girls saw Conchita in ecstasy, they looked and they saw her, and they said, "Gee, what was with her?" And then they looked up, and then they all saw, and that was the 18th of June, 1961.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's the very first introduction, the very first thing that happened here, and that's part of that 23-minute documentary that we show the people that first come here. We usually like to introduce them to the basics, the general outline of the things that happened before we get into, a much more detailed examination of the reason why we believe that Our Lady came to Garabandal, and that direct connection between Garabandal and Fatima. So yeah.
So that's June of 61.
Yes,
before,
June 1861.
and that's 63 years ago this month.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's right.
the children, 3 of the 4 girls are still alive today, and they're
Hmm.
about 74, 75 years old because they were 11
Yes,
and 12 at the time.
that's right.
And the message they received,
Hmm.
which, as I understand it, and we can talk about how apparitions are understood and also the Vatican's new document that came out.
Sure.
But as I understand, there
Hmm.
were 2 main messages.
Correct.
The first, in October of that first year, 1961, states, "We must make many sacrifices, perform much penance, and visit the Blessed Sacrament frequently. But
Yes.
first, we must lead good lives. If we do not, a chastisement will befall us. The cup is already filling up. And if we do not change, a very great chastisement will come upon us."
Yes. Now, not many people know this, but that text was actually it appeared beneath Saint Michael the Archangel, if I recall correctly, and they were ordered not to share that information, not until they were given permission to publish it in October 18, 1961. Now, Our Lady kind of explained it to them on the 4th of July, 1961, which was 2 days after her first apparition. So you have Michael the Archangel appearing with a message that they're forbidden to share or forbidden to publish and
Hmm,
reveal. Then he appears 10 more times,
hmm,
Our Lady, and he introduces Our Lady on the 1st of July. And then the 2nd of July, Our Lady appears, and then she explains that message on the 4th of July to the girls, which was 5 months and 21 days before the convocation of Vatican II. And then then it was published on the 18th of October, 1961, which is 359 days, just shy of a year before the opening of Vatican II. Now, there's something really interesting, and I just found this out, and I think you'll like this very much. Okay,
hmm,
there was one of the children of Mary Lowly Mathon was doing a deep dive investigation trying to find connections between Fatima and Garabandal. So he went to the local newspaper. It's called El Diario Montañés. And in the local newspaper, he did a word search, and he used words like Fatima and Sister Lucy and all these kinds of things. And he
hmm.
found one. And get this, you're going to love this. Okay. And this was the 26th of October, 1961. So it's only a few months after the first apparitions began. And here's what it says. According to a local newspaper report on 26 October 1961, the angel told the girls a secret and recommended that they do not say anything about this to anyone, not in your homes, not to the bishop, not to the pope, not to Sister Lucia, until I order you to do so on October 18. The angel also told them to pray the Holy Rosary every day. And then it says this. You're going to love this, Doc. Here's what it says. Both the girls and their parents asked the same question. Who is Sister Lucia? So, so here the angel.
Okay,
Isn't that
amazing.
incredible? Here the
Yeah.
angel is referring to Sister Lucia in San Sebastian de Garabandal before the parents and the children even knew who she was. I'm sure they heard of Fatima before. I'm sure of it. But they might not have known, the principal, sole surviving seer of Fatima named Sister Lucia. But that's what was reported in the local newspaper. Now, this is a secular newspaper. This is not a Catholic publication whatsoever. So isn't that remarkable? So he sent that to me, and I have the original PDF from the archives of El Diario Montañés, the whole paper. And
Hmm.
so there's that little clip. So, I mean, again, cementing more of a connection with Fatima. I'm sorry
Well,
for talking so long. Yeah.
no, no, not at all. This is a fascinating thing to me because the 3 of the 4 girls are still alive today. One of them married a man from America who was a Navy a midshipman visited Spain, came to Garabandal. He was a Catholic. He was intrigued. He met her, fell in love with her, and married her. And his name was Moynihan, just like my own name. So that he called me 3 years ago, and I had not had much interest in Garabandal, but my interest is increasing. And I met Jacinta last September when we were in Garabandal, and we'll be coming back again to Garabandal. And Jacinta and Jeffrey usually spend several weeks every summer. You know them well, I believe.
Oh yeah.
And so the amazing thing is that an apparition which has ecstasies, which has messages, which has strange phenomenon like their bodies being so heavy that people couldn't lift them, is still present in a sense. They're still alive. We can still meet them and talk to them. And the woman, one of the four girls, is named Moynihan. Now, and so I'm thinking, you and I, you're the sentinel there on the spot. For whatever reason, we talked last time, your life journey brought you to Garabandal. You were fascinated. You wanted to know. You were studying for the priesthood. You stopped that study. You came to Garabandal. You've been there several years now. I think almost 10 years.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be 10 years in December.
And so the two of us are trying to discern what happened and what importance it has. A lot of people have heard of Garabandal, but it's much less well known than the approved Fatima, approved Lourdes, and approved La Salette. But the fascinating thing is we have videotape of the children at that time because it was in the 1960s, and they are still alive today, and we can still
Yeah.
speak with them.
It is a remarkable thing that you can have a conversation with someone that experienced this and gives you a firsthand account of everything that happened here. I mean, you're getting it from, in quotes, the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
So when you have conversations like that, I mean, it's such a blessing. And Jacinta has been in the Pilgrim Center. Her husband's been in the Pilgrim Center. We've talked at length. I've talked probably longer with her husband, Jeffrey, than with Jacinta, because he speaks English a lot easier than Jacinta does, Jacinta. But yeah, I mean, it's a remarkable thing to be able to do that. And I have talked with Jacinta. I've talked with Mary Cruz briefly, but unfortunately, I haven't yet spoken with Conchita. I'd be delighted to, but unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to.
Okay.
Perhaps in the
Well,
future, I could.
yeah, I
But
think we'll
yeah.
communicate as best we can and try to, in a sense, maybe even at some point bring them onto the podcast.
Oh,
But
that'd be great.
um,
Yeah.
when we speak of the Virgin speaking to people, each of us in our own meditation and prayer life, you even said last time that you had an experience of being given a kind of answer to prayer, not a voice, as not a voice that's audible, but you felt it in your heart, in your mind. And so, to me, walking in the faith and walking in the kind of pilgrim life, you are always in some way in contact with the scriptures. You're in contact in deep prayer, saying, God, make clear to me what I should do. But what these four children represent and the other approved apparitions represent is a more public appearance, which seems to
Yes.
be pointing us towards a problem we may be facing, like loss of the faith or loss of the simple goodness that we ought to maintain. And they emphasize we should have good lives. And therefore, I'm fascinated by these messages. I don't think that they're
Doctor, you've touched on something that really you know e- e- evokes some thoughts. You talked about public public uh,
yeah,
experiences, and
yes,
that's very important. A lot of times, when people describe these Marian apparitions, they talk about it as private revelation. However, I think there should be another, um, there should be another definition or another group, and it should be public prophetic revelation. And yeah, and there should be a whole new distinction, because it's not simply private revelation where I'm inside my room and I'm praying and I have this experience. No, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of people witnessing these events, seeing them with their own eyes. And this changes things. The fact that 70,000 people saw that miracle of the sun in the COVID area, it just changes things. It's not simply, it doesn't simply, I don't think it's fair to put that under the definition of a private revelation, not when that many people, there's nothing private about that at all. 70 to 100,000 people, as reported by the secular newspaper, O Seculo,
Yes.
describing these events. And therefore, there should be a new level of respect for this kind of this kind of event. And I think that the new norms for proceeding in the discernment of alleged supernatural phenomena, that's something that I'm worried about it, because I wonder if this is really a good thing. I wonder if, this isn't, kind of putting a limitation on what we knew before and what we held before.
Well,
And yeah,
yeah, I can understand your worry. This new document seems to be a bit humanistic. It, or let's just say, it says that the humanistic side of things is what we can know about, and the supernatural side we really can't.
mm,
It's like across the river, across the divide between our world and the next world or the other world.
yeah,
And yet, our entire tradition is filled with contact between the two worlds. All through the Old Testament, people, the prophets, and Adam and Eve and Abraham are encountering uh, either angels or the Lord. And all through the New Testament, there's appearances of the Lord to St. Paul on the road to Damascus, etc. And then throughout our history, there are occasions when people have felt they've been directed by, and each of us in our own lives have felt that there's something that has happened after we prayed or after we've been in great darkness, and something happens, and we know that it's not a normal thing, but we can not precisely prove that we've been touched or we've been illuminated or we've been guided, but we know that something has touched us,
yes,
and it's as if there's an element of the Enlightenment thought that wants to remove the possibility of contact with the supernatural or the eternal or the holy, and
yeah,
doesn't want it to be an object of our concern. But in
yeah,
these public apparitions at Fatima, again, you were speaking of 70,000 people. The more
mhm,
came each time. They
that's
kept
right.
coming on the 13th of the month to be in the presence of Our Lady.
Mhm.
And on the the October
October
13th,
13. Yep.
1917, 70,000 people, including journalists, were present. They gathered and they watched, and they had been a rainstorm, and then someone said, "Look up," and there's a picture with a camera from 1917, which was published in that paper, El Secolo, and all the people are looking.
Yeah.
So it's a public event,
Mhm.
as you rightly point out.
And
It's
as
not a
such,
private.
it should hold more weight. It should be more, it should be more significant and unique in the fact that you had that many witnesses who all said the same thing. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, and in Garabandal, people came with their little cameras, their little what do we
Eight
call it?
millimeter, 16 millimeter Kodachrome film. Yeah. And they shot
And
some, reel to reel. of the
and the girls
events.
and the girls then later were on interviews. Conchita was on an interview in the 1970s. I think maybe it was even the BBC. Was that?
Yeah, she was. She did an interview. She did a documentary in the BBC. I think that was in part with John Bird was the guy. I think he was part of the production there. But she also appeared with Gay Byrne. Now this guy is like the Johnny Carson of Ireland. And she did one of the great interviews you'll ever see. If you look on YouTube for the Gay Byrne interview that she did with him, oh my God, he's a pro at an interview. And here she is, um, sitting in the studio doing this interview, and she gave some of the great answers you're ever going to hear. But yeah, that was I think that was in the '80s that happened. But yeah, so
Well, well, so the question about whether one of these apparitions is authentic or somehow it was an invention of the children in one case or another, this is people discuss this and they wonder about this, and the Vatican probably has dozens, if not hundreds, of cases of people saying this happened or that happened. They say to the priest and then to the local bishop, and then it eventually makes its way to Rome. But in these particular cases, what was of concern in Garabandal in particular was a passage about bishops and priests
yes.
leading souls to perdition. And
Mhm.
it is my belief that because Conchita said that Our Lady had communicated those words to her, that somebody higher up said, we will never approve this. But if we look at the record now of these last 60 years, it's possible that some souls have been led
Yes.
astray by bishops and priests. We could read through this very famous uh, June 18th, 1965 apparition in which Conchita heard the second message.
Right.
And
That's right. It was June 18, 1965, and it was Saint Michael the Archangel. And would you like to read it, Doctor?
sure, uh, as my message of the 18th of October back in 1961, I guess, correct, which I read at the beginning,
That's exactly right.
where
Yep.
we should lead good lives and visit the Blessed Sacrament. A very simple and pragmatic counsel of spiritual progress, spiritual contact. As my message of the 18th of October has not been complied with, and as it has not been made known to the world, I am telling you that this is the last one. Previously, the cup was filling. Now it is brimming over. Many cardinals, bishops, and priests are following the road to perdition, and with them they are taking many more souls. Ever less importance is being given to the Holy Eucharist. We should turn the wrath of God away from us by our own efforts. If you ask his forgiveness with a sincere heart, he will pardon you. I, your mother, through the intercession of St. Michael the Archangel, wish to tell you that you should make amends. You are now being given the last warnings. I love you very much, and I do not want your condemnation. Ask us sincerely, and we shall grant your plea. Reflect on the passion of Jesus. That's the message.
That's it. Beautifully read. And I think when you look at that and you really analyze the text, you see the love that Our Lady has for each and every one of us. The fact that she says, I love you very much and do not want your condemnation. And that's the whole reason why she came. She's coming because she knows we have trouble. She knows where it's coming from. And she's trying to make sure that we avoid any pitfalls as a result of those problems inside the church. That's it. And so, I mean, she outlines and identifies what the problems are. She says where, it goes from to the very top of inside the church, and you have that recurrent plea of prayer for priests. And again, I mentioned to you I think it may have been the first episode that we did together, that Our Lady asked, according to Jacinta, every single time Our Lady appeared, she asked for prayers for priests. And Conchita said nearly every time, but she saw Our Lady with more frequency, and she saw her for a longer duration of time. But anyway, that's it. And I think that it's just also the meditation and thinking about the passion of our Lord. This is something that when we do that, if that's in the forefront of our mind and we're really meditating on how much our Lord loves us and how much um, our Lord went through in order to save us. The passion death that he went through in order to save our souls, the souls he died to save. It just says so much. If we have that in the forefront of our mind, how can we commit sin? You know, and I think that's the reason why Our Lady wanted us to meditate on it, because of that. Uh, you know, the positive effect that it has on our spiritual life. And she mentioned sacrifices, more sacrifices, penance, sacrifice. These are all the things that we should be doing every single day. And I think it's just so beautifully put. And the wonderful thing about Our Lady is when she gives messages, she has this wonderful economy of words. There's this brevity where she says it, it's right between the eyes, and it's over.
Mhm.
She doesn't take a lot of time to say what needs to be said. There's this, it's this beautiful, brief, um, condensed, very important, dense information. And yeah, so
Well,
that's what we received here in Garabandal.
all right. And so I wanted to just say also that, we have Anthony. Hello from Rush, a small seaside town north of Dublin.
Wow,
Looking forward to the chat. Well, this is wonderful. And
Doctor,
greetings
can I
from
can I thank someone? Someone wrote to me an
Macedonia.
absolutely wonderful quote, and this came from one of your viewers. His name was Alexandre. Alex from Portugal, he goes by, and he sent me this wonderful quote that I didn't know about. Can I share it with you?
Sure, absolutely.
It's a quote from Father Malachi Martin. Now, this came during a debate with Dave Hunt. He's a Protestant, and this was a radio broadcast entitled Steel on Steel with John Loeffler, and it was in 1991. And here's the quote. Now, this is verbatim, okay? And here's what he says.
Hmm.
He says, again, this is the reason why I'm reading this is because Father Malachi Martin, who read the Third Secret of Fatima and was an advisor to John the 23rd, firmly believed that Garabandal was the repetition of the Third Secret of Fatima. Okay. And this is what he said. And this sounds so similar to what we find in Garabandal, but here's what it says. Okay. He says the papal outlook at the present moment, the general outlook of those who are considered to be traditional Catholic believers is that there is a rough time ahead for all humanity, and particularly for the church, because of the weakness in the church's structure, and will be a time of trial and diminished numbers and of apostasy, open apostasy, replacing the present imminent apostasy, which is affecting many bishops and many priests. And that this will all culminate at a certain moment because geopolitical or socio-political calamities afflicting the world will combine to make life very difficult for everybody, including Catholics, and at and that in one given moment when things are very desperate, that there will be a sign in the heavens, physical, visible in the heavens, and it will be Marian. and authentically Marian and authentically Christian, and will strike the conscience of every man and woman alive. It won't necessarily convert them, but it will confirm where they are, and that out of it will come a solution, a temporary solution for the world's ills, and there will be a temporary peace. That is a skeletal outlook of it in itself, and there is no surety of the date or time, although one can hazard guesses here and there. But the central function of the Virgin Mary is essential to that outlook. This idea comes from Fatima. This comes from Fatima, close quote. That's Father Malachi Martin. And I mean, you can just place so many points of what was mentioned here in Garabandal on that quote. It's remarkable. But anyway, I didn't want to take up so much of your time. I know we've gone over what we were saying we are agreeing to here.
Yeah, I wanted to tell everyone we felt tonight that you were a little tired and I was a little tired, so we wanted to not cancel the program, but we wanted not to go on at such great length. I
Sure.
did want to say the idea of the Virgin coming and as if from far away is a temporal and physical way of describing her appearance. But if we would, it seems to me, if we were to imagine the relationship between time and eternity in a different way, that eternity is right here, really in the same room, in that room where you are sitting in Garabandal, in that town, or where I am in my office, or where each of our viewers is. And it's time and space are not an impediment to the Mary coming from eternity. She can just step from one side of the veil to the other. And we don't have to imagine her taking a long train ride or airplane ride or spaceship ride. It's right next to us. And if we
Yeah.
have that thought, we might also realize that God's presence is that way as well, and perhaps heaven itself. We are in a fallen world and in a temporal world, but if we could just see, I think Jesus speaks of this on several occasions. If we had different type of an eye towards what is important, and so I think the apparitions are a reminder to us of the nearness, the,
Yes.
the
Yes. Please
nearness
continue. Yeah.
of eternal things. So,
Yeah.
Michael, let's conclude here. What we're going to come back in 2 weeks from tonight
Yep.
we're going to put a couple of the clips on the film of the children so that people can see. We're going to talk about our trip to Garabandal at the end of August, early September. And we wanted to invite any of our viewers, if they want to come with us, to look at our website, Inside the Vatican Pilgrimages. Consider whether you might like to travel with us, meet Michael, travel with me. And I think Jacinta ought to be there, and we will have a meeting with her. So, Michael, you can conclude then.
Oh, well, I just want to thank you very much for this opportunity and this time. I hope everyone prays the rosary every day, pray for the Pope, all cardinals, bishops, priests, wear the brown scapular, do the first 5 Saturdays devotion of reparation to Our Lady's Immaculate Heart, read the lives of the saints and the martyrs, go to confession weekly and remain in a state of sanctifying grace. Pray for the poor souls in purgatory. There you go, Doctor.
Thank you. Those are wonderful counsels. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good night to everyone. Best wishes.